5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let's go. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 5 of my blog series. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode today. We're switching up the content today with a podcast video as, to be honest, there was way too much discussion I need to discuss today's topic that I need to express. So with that said, let's get straight into the episode.
Episode 5.
So the last podcast in this series was all about the present media ecology in women's football. Now, if you're sat there thinking, wait, what's media ecology? Then, I don't know for you. No, I'm just kidding. Go over to the post 1 in this blog series and learn a little bit more about media ecology and then come straight back. But I'm going to give a moment now to those people who need to travel back and do their readings first. Okay, we're back in the room. So today's podcast will be about discussing the future media ecology of women's football and what the years to come are going to look like and predicting the key players of the years to come. So firstly, before we actually begin, I'd like to address the title of today's podcast, which is The Future is Feminine, said by Sepp Blatter.
The future is feminine.
For me, this is an interesting point. Now, I'm not going to discuss all of Sepp Blatter's antics and whether his actions are different to his words. But I think this statement is true for football. I think women's football is growing. It's the fastest growing sport in England still. And from the Euro 2022 success, I can only see it developing and growing. So the importance of new media convergence and social media in particular upon the growth of women's football was touched on a little bit in episode 4, but I think it relates to today's content even more as social media is going to evolve with us, it's going to continue to converge and come up with new and innovative ways for us to consume and connect with women's football. And I believe that social media will be a key player in the future of women's football in positive ways and maybe potentially negative ways. But we'll discuss that later on in the podcast. So firstly, it's a topic that is well researched. Van in 2014 supports the use of social media to grow women's football. But when it comes to, especially when it comes to marketing through social media, it can just allow you to reach new demographics and create new fans. And also in line with what Van says, it will repair the attention deficit that's happened over the past year from broadcast media. There's been a complete attention deficit there. So the growth of social media will hopefully repair that attention deficit. And in addition to this, Carragher and Lolich in 2021 support that social media can increase the status of the Women's Super League clubs and just clubs in general. And also, now that due to the recent transition to professionalism of women's football, these women in the football teams are going to have time to produce the content and produce good content for their social media. So it's about time that they start getting paid to play at the elite level. But yeah, now that they're getting paid to play, they're going to have that time to create the social media content, which is what we needed to see for finally the growth of social media of women's football clubs. So, as we're talking about the future, we don't know ultimately what is definitely going to happen. We can predict, but we don't know. So it could mean that social media might not have all positive impacts. So this is also not about shout for the future, as it has been researched. So Venegas, Vera, Colbert and Lema in 2020 suggested that increasing the content that you produce on social media can increase opportunity for certain viewers to respond to the content with negative responses. And it's not something we're shy of seeing in the men's game. So if the women's football game were to be on the same trajectory as the men's, this is a potential factor that could harm the image of women's football in the future. So yeah, whatever the impact, positive or negative, new media, especially social media, will be key players in the future of women's football. So up next, we have key player 2, which is esports. Now, the supersonic rise of esports is one to watch in the world of sport in general, let alone women's football, but let's get some background on it first. So esports can be defined as gaming or video/board games that are played at a professional level. It's something that's widely respected, and Chikish et al. Defines it as a new era for sport back in 2019. And the way in which it could link to women's football is that it could completely open up the sport to a brand new fan base, to bring income and revenue, and also to aid the overall growth of the sport. Investments are being made elsewhere at the moment for women's football, but if they were to start investing in the digital disruption of esport now, they could definitely get ahead of the curve and really assist the growth of the sport to brand new levels, brand new people, like a complete new demographic. So we've got esports, social media and new media, and the final thing to discuss, I know, final, I can only do 3, as like I said, I'll just ramble on way too much, and if I don't limit myself on this topic, I'll just keep going. So the third key player I'm going to discuss is the government. So I don't know if anyone remembers hearing it in the news, but after the Lionesses brought it home in 2022, they wrote a letter to the current Prime Minister at that time asking for them to help increase the availabilities to play football to schoolgirls, as only 63% at the time of schoolgirls had access to playing football at school. So after this, gov.uk published a Future of Women's Football review, where they promised to review 3 areas of the sport to produce data, helping them to do all they can to grow women's sport. Now, if that doesn't scream key player in the government, then I don't know what will. So overall, we've got 3 key players that we've talked about there. So we've got new media, social media in particular, e-sports, and the government. Now, I could discuss this all day long. However, this does mark a close to this week's podcast. I hope you have enjoyed it. There is just one more episode left in the series, so be sure not to miss out on post 6. But I would like to thank you once again for listening, and I really hope you enjoyed today's content. Bye!